L'homme qu'on aimait trop, présenté hors compétition à Cannes cette année avec
The
Catherine
name of
Deneuve.
my
Bonjour,
daughter
bienvenue
in
à Cannes avec Guillaume Canet. Bonjour Guillaume Canet.
Cannes
Adèle
this
Haenel,
year.
bienvenue Adèle Haenel à
Welcome
Cannes.
to
Réalisé
all of
donc
you.
par André Téchiné. Bienvenue
Directed
André
by
Téchiné.
André
Alors c'est une
Téchiné.
histoire
Welcome
vraie, une histoire qui a
to. This
défrayé
is
la
a
chronique judiciaire. Il y a
true
encore eu des jugements qui sont
story
tombés encore très récemment
and
sur
a
cette affaire.
recent
Comment vous l'avez abordé cette histoire? Est-ce que c'est
decision
une recherche de la vérité?
condemnation.
Comment vous avez abordé
Something
tout ce
was
film?
C'est-à-dire que c'est très
brought
factuel.
this story
C'est-à-dire que tout
back
le
to the
récit,
headlines.
il est fondé sur des événements.
The story
réels,
in the film
mais
is
je
based
me suis
on
essentiellement
facts,
attaché à la relation
but
des trois
I wanted to
personnages
focus on the
principaux
relationship
pour qu'il y ait
between the
plus de
three main
concentration.
characters
sur le
to
personnage
have
de
a
René Leroux,
better
joué par
focus.
Catherine Deneuve,
So
le personnage
René
dont il
Leroux,
s'appelait Guillaume Canet,
played by Catherine Deneuve, the mother, the key
et qui est la fille,
figure played
effectivement,
by Guillaume Canet, and René Leroux's daughter played by
Tout ce que vous dites dans le film est vrai. Vous êtes comment
Agnès,
quelle recherche vous avez
Adèle,
faite,
Haenel. And so,
comment vous avez abordé chacune des scènes,
how
chacun des
did
personnages?
you
c'est sur les
approach
péripéties,
these scenes?
sur le déroulement, je me suis surtout intéressé
I was interested mainly in the period when these three characters worked together and where they had dominated relations that I try to show in the film. And beyond that, this story, which has its emotional side in addition to the financial aspect, ends up with a trial that takes place 30 years later. And so what I dealt with the two parts, the emotional part in the 1970s, and the consequences 30 years later in the present in the form of the last trial. All the characters existed, and some of them are still alive. How did Catherine Deneuve, did you meet René Leroux?
Vous avez raison, c'est mieux avec le micro.
You're right, it's better with the mic. No, I did not meet her. I remember when the events took place.
Oui, j'ai suivi ça, je veux dire, assez.
This was something very intense. It was an amazing story, especially since it lasted such a long time. And René Leroux wrote the book which recounted the story. I spoke to her on the phone. But what I tried to do was follow André's instructions for the film, because even though she's somebody who is well known, she is. I wanted to follow his instructions in this story. You have often worked with André Téchiné, and what was new in what he brought you? A more sophisticated person, a person who is somewhat slightly brutally, who often speaks in violent terms, at the same time quite a charming person, very present in her casino, and who knows how to deal with the casino goers. It's a film about money, large amounts of money, and there's a lot of talk of money between the mother and daughter. The daughter is also a strong personality. You don't see her as a victim, a very athletic, determined type of person who left written accounts. Did you read them? It's true that there isn't that much about her, but I did some research and I read the letters she left behind. This was a way to broach the character, and since André was very rigorous about respecting the truth, the facts, I considered that the character, all we can do is imagine the way she might be with the instructions of the film's director, and so I tried to let myself go to create a character with the emotions she must have gone through. And Guillaume Canet, your character is very mysterious. He's a charmer, but he's also very cruel, almost sadistic with Agnès Leroux. Were you interested? How were you interested? What I found interesting in this script was the dual nature of all of the characters. Each of them has this strength along with strong vulnerability. There is domination between the mother and daughter and vice versa, between Maurice and René, the mother, and vice versa. And this is what interested me, as André said earlier, and I was interested in participating in the story, and the character interested me very much, both with something seductive but devastating at the same time. It's like meeting somebody who says, I don't like you. There's always something terrible when somebody says, I don't like you, because you hang on, you want to know why they don't like you. And so from the moment he let Agnès come into his life, this situation exists. These characters fascinated me because Maurice is a seducer, a manipulator, very ambitious, and this was interesting to make somebody who is objectively unpleasant into somebody very appealing. And I tried to come as close as possible to this character and become attached to him in a way. And this is a very strange experience, something that's not easy to do, especially with so cynical a character as what he seems to have been. And there was something that was frightening because you're afraid of, indicating your evil nature with a look, a glance. I'm not saying that because he's here, but I'm not saying this because André is here, but I met a really great director, and it was a joy to be with him because he was always present, and with one word, he would clearly indicate what he wanted. I can't judge my performance, but the way he worked with me was always extremely subtle, and I fully enjoyed playing this role. And André, Téchiné, how did you direct them? These exchange of glances, or was there a danger of doing something other than what you were looking for? When I work with actors, I always try to be as technical and accurate as possible, and not so psychological for the rhythm, the voices, that everything be as clear as possible, higher, lower, certain gestures. These are always very concrete things. But conversely, I like to leave them great freedom from the start in their performance, and then as we go along, I listen to them and I watch out for what they're doing, with the possibility of making suggestions. But I have no preconceived ideas before the actors begin their work. I need for them to get started on their own, and I try to provide the springboard they need. In a way, I'm an assistant for the actors. That's how I see things. Actors are in danger, and I'm behind the camera, so I have take no risk. That's the way he's always been. But of course, over time, some things are become more obvious. André has always shown the greatest respect for actors. He'll never, he always, if he has something to say, like François Truffaut, he comes and tells you things personally and never bawls people out in front of the technicians. And so there's what people do and what people are, and this is an equation that's impossible to resolve because there's still a great deal of mystery as to what actually happened. And so I knew that what he was most interested in was describing the relations based on love and hatred between these three characters. What is most talked about is money, but it's a symbol. And it reveals their private relations. And of course, since the casinos are at the heart of it, money, it must be there. And then after having made this film, did any of you have your own conviction about the truth of the story? Catherine Deneuve says, I won't tell you, I do have one. Guillaume Canet says that as an actor, because I spoke to Maurice Haenel during the shoot, even though it was complicated, I was fortunate. I'm saying I was fortunate because it's always interesting to meet someone who is living, a character who, a real-life character who is still living. It's interesting to see how they talk and try to give a true portrayal. And so with the last-minute changes in the last trial, I am sensitive to it. What fascinates me in the story, even though there was a very sincere and perfectly credible condemnation from his son, even though it exists, this will remain an enigma. A legal decision was taken condemning Maurice Haenel for the murder of Agnès Leroux. But for this film, I would have preferred to have concrete proof, which would enable us to know where Agnès' body is. And I think that what was so successful about André's film is that this film does not take a position, but of course at the end of the film you necessarily have your own opinion, but it might change within 2 hours. And Adèle, do you have an opinion on what happened in this case? I have no idea. I did not really try to make a judgment and replace the courts. What I was interested in was exploring the relationships between the characters. And so during the shoot, yes, there were sudden changes, something new during the shoot and even after, during the editing. But this film, and my position is not that of someone on a jury. What I was interested in was the power of doubt. I did not want this to be an unresolved, I did not want this to be a detective story, a thriller where you discover who done it at the end. It's not an enigma, it's a mystery, which is very different. In a thriller, an enigma and a mystery are not at all the same thing, and I wanted to show a mystery. I wanted to be as close as possible to this notion of a mystery, very close to the characters and the actors playing them. But what drove all this was this power of doubt. And of course, I don't want to go beyond that under any circumstances. Thank you very much to all of you in the name of my daughter.